So can you talk about Darius Slade's development while he's been sitting out?
We think he's got tremendous potential. When we started recruiting him, knew about him. I knew his Coach Johnson, well, and he was in the rotation there at Ohio State, which probably means a lot. And he had a couple of injuries, had an Achilles injury, and we think he's talented. We think he's a guy that will give us 2 really good years.
Hey, Coach, can you talk to me about Dat Win?
Yeah, he's special. I need one. I just got back from New York. Went to Dat's induction. Into the College Football Hall of Fame. He's a special player.
What made him different?
His intelligence and toughness. I mean, his diagnosis of plays. Never wasted steps. Never. I can remember this vividly. One of his teammates was up in New York with us, and he told a story. This guy was a safety, and Dat was only a sophomore. No, excuse me, he was a sophomore, and we were playing Colorado. It's game day. We were both undefeated, and they were good. They had Detmer and Ray Crew. They had all these people, and we were playing in Boulder. And my safety went down, and this kid went in the game, and he was a walk-on who ended up being a 3rd-round pick. But he told the story that during the game, he said he was nervous, and he said that Dat just looked at him and goes, "Hey," he said, "just listen to me." He said, "I'll tell you whether it's running, pass, and I'll tell you where it's going." And he said he was right. I remember also a quick Dat Win. I remember when Bill Parcells, I was the head coach at SMU, and Bill Parcells became the head coach of the Cowboys, and he had asked me to play in a golf tournament. I said, "You're going to love Dat Win," because he had been there before, and he sort of gruffly told me, he goes, "I hate midget linebackers." Well, it irritated the dickens out of me, and I'll never forget this. A year to the date, he calls me again about the golf deal, which I didn't play in on the first one. And he says, "I want to tell you something." He said, "I know I irked you, about," he goes, "he can play on any team I've ever coached." He's 5'11", 225, and just his intelligence is smart.
And so being there with him, you missed meeting Herman Edwards.
Yeah. Herman and I have we've been on the phone, and we're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to visit tomorrow. He gets in tonight. We're going to visit tomorrow after practice.
Do you have a relationship with him previously? You guys both been around.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, I know her. We've talked a few things, but we're going to visit face to face tomorrow.
And do you have a decision in your mind?
Well, no, I don't have anything. I'm just like I told you, it's got to be a fit for both of us. And it's just he's got to make that decision. I've got to see where I fit in with him.
You did mention in his press conference that he looked at the defense and he sees some areas where it can improve.
I think
it.
I don't take anything personal, and I'll be the first to tell you. We've got miles to go before we sleep, but I do know this: we made great improvement this year. So I don't really take any of that as a diss anyway.
But you've been in college football a long time. What are the differences with this early signing period? Some of the different challenges you got to deal with.
I don't think it's gonna. Here's the thing that I really think. For the last 4 or 5 years, you had to be your calendar. You had to be about a year and a half ahead. We're already on 19 kids, and you're progressing. All this does is it cleans it up for the early signings that for a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, there's still going to be players out there. You can look at a lot of kids we've taken, you take late. That's one of the things I told Herm. You have to be careful when you say, boy, I want 5 stars, I want 4 stars. Evaluation is the key. Evaluation, I think it's just ironic that right now probably the best college football player in America was a walk-on in Baker Mayfield. He was a walk-on because he didn't think that he got the offers. He could have had some small offers, but he didn't get the offers that he thought he deserved. So Herm and I sort of talked about that, the it factor in recruiting, and You know, I've been at two places that we won a lot of games, you know, and that's Kansas State and Baylor, that we didn't absolutely dominate. I mean, we always wanted the best players, don't get me wrong. But I mean, evaluation in this business is crucial.
You know the SMU job, obviously you were the head coach there, it's open again.
Do I want it? No. I've
Well,
been,
I've
been there.
I was going to ask you that, but I was also going to ask you relative to Todd. Would Todd be a good fit for SMU, do you think?
I think Todd would be a good fit anywhere. I think he's he's a guy that brings a lot of things to the table. I mean, with his record, and I told you this, I would tell anybody, I thought he did a really good job this year. And I think that, you know, I also understand the business. Yeah, so, yeah, I think he would be.
We've already talked about him a little bit, but what kind of person is Darius Slade?
You know, he's a great kid. Great kid. You know, what I like about him, it's important to him. And I go back to this in recruiting. I truly believe he has that it factor. You know, he has that it where you know what, you can count on me. You know, I'm going to be there. And so that's important.
Do you think that, going back to the recruiting question, do you think that benefits the blue bloods, or do you think it benefits schools that can try to sign guys before February?
Well, I think it benefits everybody. I think everybody's gonna, you know, you're gonna get your early kids that you've done a great job of. You know, the days of closing in the house late is over. I mean, we know these kids. That's why the rules are so, right now they're so backdated, is because these kids are coming to your camp in the 9th and 10th grade. You know, we know about these guys then, and you have to be ahead of the curve. And what I think the new date will do, it will, you know, we're going to get the kids that we want, but also it's going to clean up if you have 5 or 6 scholarships left, and you're going to sit there and say, all right, I've got Greg Moore, I've got, you know, I've got some options, and I think it cleans up where you can, you know, fill in with what you need. And I say this again, you know, evaluation. People forget that sometimes, you know, you offer a kid as a junior or a sophomore, and then you get a kid that maybe is unnoticed. You know, I have a kid right now that just came out of nowhere. And I mean, I look at him, I said, wow, you know, he was a kid, you know, a year ago, you know, he was 18 pounds lighter, and, you know, when he was, then all of a sudden now he's maturing, you know, which you used to hear about. And you know, this early signing, I think, will clear some things up.
So with senior film, how important is that? Because obviously they developing guys.
You know, it is important because one of the things, you know, Bill Snyder, I thought had an unbelievable process. He used to tell us, he said, the things that you never compromise, he said, you better play your position well. So whatever position you play, you better be good at it. When you look at that tape, you know, and it's got to be more than a highlight film. You know, nowadays we get to have them in camp, and you really get to know them. The second thing is speed. You know, you can't coach speed. You know, we all want big. You know, big is better and all that. But sometimes speed. You know, and then the it factor. You know, can you trust? You know, he had a saying, which I still say it. There's nothing worse than somebody who can that won't. You know, and you've seen it in the draft, and you've seen it in college football. You know, I looked up the other day. I was comparing. I was doing an evaluation. I don't think Washington has a 5-star on his team. I mean, what they have done, and the key, and one of the things that Ray and I sort of talked about was, you get kids that are fast, that can play their position, and people have taken this part out of it that's crucial, is developing it. You know, you got to develop kids. When you develop kids, in mine, I mean, I'll give you a great example right now, is our corner. You know, Chase Lucas. I mean, he was a running back. I told you. He would tell me, boy, Coach, you should see me at running back. You know, he's got to be developed, and he is developing. And he's got to, I talked to him, he goes, what's next for me? I said, you got to live in that weight room. You got to be strong. You know, you got to get faster. You got to get smarter. And you keep developing these kids. And one of the things, and I give the props to Washington, because they have they pick their type of players and they develop them, and they're hard to beat.
When you hear about this idea of having this new leadership model that's going to be part of what's going forward here, does that seem like that's workable to you, or do you understand that?
I don't have a total feel of it yet, but I am a believer of this, and the kids will tell you, knowledge is power. I've lived my life by that. And the more knowledge that you have in recruiting, and the more knowledge, if you put the setup in the model of what I think Ray and them want, the more knowledge you have about a kid, the better you can be about evaluation. And anything that you can mainstream, that you can cut time and still be productive is important. So, I think you just have to see. I think they have told me a little bit about what they have talked about, the scenario of how it sets up. I'm anxious to talk to Herm to get his thoughts. But I think, obviously it's like anything else. If you can get it in order and get it synchronized, it possibly could work.
Coach, you said you've been on the phone with Herman Edwards. Tell me about that a little bit.
Excuse me?
You've been on the phone with Coach
Right.
Tell me about how that is going.
Yeah, it was good. He's a good man. We got a little bit of a background, and we're straight with each other. I mean, I'm not going to mince words. I'm not, had a good meeting with Ray the other day, good meeting with Gene. I mean, I'm just, I express myself, they express themselves, and I'm not, like I said, I just want to see where I would fit in, because certain things that about what I do that I have to have, some things, and I want to see where Herm, what his, what are the things that are important to him, where are we on the same page, where we're not. And you can't do that on the phone. I tell you one thing, he's been working his tail off, doing his ESPN gig and making phone calls. So what I've tried to do is try to help him with the kids, that's all the defensive kids that he's making phone calls to.
We asked you about Darius Slade earlier. If you're back and he's here, how do you see him fitting in with the